Hey everybody, it's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with a nooner. It's time to do number. Now get your salt shaker out because we're going to talk rumors. I usually don't like doing rumor type videos, but I asked you guys on Facebook, did a poll, and y'all said, well, talk about it. Just let people know it's a rumor. Now I get this from a guy that's got inside sources over at Hasbro, and he did give me the figures of what they would do for the Empire Strikes Back retro figures, and he was about 95% right. It was like one or two that wasn't there, but with any plans, especially when I got him, a year before those figures came out, you can see why things change. And from what he told me, when it comes to Indiana Jones, we're still very early. At least Hasbro's still very early. So here's the thing I'm hearing from him, and again, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I don't want you to accuse me of being, Honey, you talked all about me, about starting rumors. Now look who's starting rumors now. I guess you're hurting for views. You want some of that Doomcock views, don't you? So what Hasbro wants to do is go with a light push for Indiana Jones. A light push. One, I hear they're not getting hardly any information from Disney about the new film, so they don't have much to work on other than maybe, what the main characters look like, of course, Indiana Jones, but that's going to limit what they make, or at least have in the market by the time the movie comes out. But they want to go very light with the push as it is. They didn't do well with Crystal Skull. Kenner didn't do good with Indiana Jones. Well, Raiders of the Lost Ark. LJM didn't do good with Temple of Doom. Indiana Jones has never been a huge seller when it comes to the action figure market. And they went overboard with Crystal Skull. It was figures from all the movies. There was Monopoly games. Whatever you could put Indiana Jones on, they did. So they want to go very limited. Now, one of the things I wanted was what I would call a Black Series Indiana Jones, which would be a 6-inch figure. And that seems to be the most likely out of all of them. In fact, there might be two of them. Indiana Jones that's more 80s, and Indiana Jones that goes more with the current movie. Don't look for a full line, he told me. He said, if you see more than just Indiana Jones, that would be surprising. Right now, they're talking about everything, but that's all. Hey, we don't want to push that. Maybe if Indiana Jones sells good, they might expand the line, but I really doubt you're going to see more than just Indiana Jones. What about 3.75? Now I say 3.75. I got a buddy out there, Trek Yards, Captain Foley, said, Junkman, it's not 3.75. It's 3/4. Or you're supposed to say 3.75. I mean, 3.75. That just sounds odd to me. And I don't know math. Maybe he's right. But I always say 3.75. So, or maybe I say 3.14 nickels and 5 pennies. Maybe that'll be easier. I don't know. But it looks like we're not. Can you believe this? They're saying, at least when the 3.75 figures, there's a good chance you're not going to get any. He said they're still, looking over it. He said, think about the 3.75 figures, about what we got for Rise of Skywalker, which was very, very few. It was mixed in with the Vintage Collection, so it wasn't just figures based on that. And that looks like what they're going to do with Indiana Jones if they release any. They're going to throw Indiana Jones, maybe two other characters, but it's still maybe. He said he wouldn't be surprised if there's no size figures like that at all. Maybe a few. Now, one thing I know we all want to know about is what's hot right now in the toy market is retro figures. And I've been saying, let's re-release those Indiana Jones Kenner figures. Come on, Hasbro, you got the mold and everything. Let's release that retro. So I asked him about that because that's what I really wanted to get my hands on, especially since I can't afford that stuff, the original stuff, so they'll hold me over until maybe I can one day. Here's the thing with the retro figures. He said there have been talks about the retro figure line. Not sure if you're going to like this or not. One is they think the Indiana Jones that they the Kenner released in the 80s, it has knee joints, it has the quick arm spring and everything. They're thinking, hey, to save costs, we're just going to release a retro style Indiana Jones on that retro Kenner card, but it won't be an actual retro figure. It'd be more like looks like something that would have been Star Wars. It wouldn't have been, it's not the same mold as the Indiana Jones we got. Now, I don't like that, but if it gets us more retro figures, I see that maybe, but no, I want the Kenner style figures. If you're going to do retro already, why not just do what you already have? Hasbro's thought is there's not nostalgia enough. There's no, there's not people out there like with Star Wars. You got a lot of people who grew up on Star Wars. Memory barriers go off with the old figures, even if you're not really into Star Wars and you see those at the store. Same thing with He-Man, captured a lot of kids' imaginations that's growing up now and they want them for their kids. Indiana Jones, Hasbro feels, doesn't have that retro feel to it, so they're looking at doing kind of a retooled retro line, which would release a very limited number of figures. He said this is what last he heard is kind of floating around what retro figures they would do. Indiana Jones, of course, Motor-Rom, Short Round, Marion, and Henry Jones, with also another Indiana Jones that was labeled or talked about as being Temple of Doom Indy. I'm guessing that's without his jacket. It could be him in a white tuxedo. I didn't think about that. It could have been that. Or maybe, without his jacket on, he's got just the shirt and everything comes with a sword. Now, back to the original Kenner style retro. He said it's not off the table. You won't see the mechanic. You won't see Tote, whatever his name is. You won't see Belloc. You won't see Marion. If you see a retro figure, it's going to be just Indiana Jones, which is sad. And there's two. He said if they do it, and you're not going to see it mass produced. You're going to see it exclusively online, exclusive to a retailer, or it's going to be very limited. They're even thinking of doing the retro, or bringing back the Return of the Jedi board game and putting it in there. I hope they don't do that. I don't want to pay $50 for this board game just to get that figure.
I can't believe Junkman's talking about rumors for views after he made fun of my daddy.
Okay, he got me there. Now, what about the 12-inch figure? Remember that? The 12-inch figure? Well, from what he told me is doing a re-release of that 12-inch figure in the retro box. That got shot down pretty quickly. They, with the leather jacket, the ugly hat, they just saw that was too expensive to produce, and it's like, no, let's not even fool with that. So that looks like it's off the board. So let's recap this again of what I know so far, or what I've heard so far, I should say. Again, all rumors, take it with a grain of salt. That the push for Indiana Jones, the new movie and stuff, is going to be really light, at least very light compared to what we got with Crystal Skull, which I think we all figured is going to be lighter than that, but it's going to be pretty light, at least on the action figure side of the market. You're going to get, most likely, you're going to get something in the 6-inch scale, and it's just going to be Indiana Jones. I wish they would do a little bit more. It'd be cool. Like I've said before, Motor-Rom and that size line could be really well done. But right now, it looks like it's just going to be Indy. Maybe not. But sadly, I hate to say this, probably just going to be Indy. So for the 3.75 figures, if you get them at all, it's going to be a very, very light line, talking 3, maybe 4 figures each, if that. It's going to be very, very light. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do that size at all. And if they do, they might just focus it toward the new movie. Sadly, I know we all want the old stuff. Even if the new movie's good, we want that old stuff more than anything. And back to the retro figures. You're not going to see the original Kenner line redone, re-released, retro released like we did with Star Wars. You might see Indiana Jones in that same mold on the same card. If you do, it's going to be very limited. Like I said, exclusive to online retailers, or maybe a Target exclusive or something, or inside a Raiders board game, which would also be very limited to a store also. Now, I've also heard that one of their problems is doing the original Kenner style Indiana Jones. This one seems a little off for me. He said that they were concerned about putting the gun with him, or he might come with just the whip without the gun, because Hasbro felt that gun that came with Indy was too lifelike. I don't know what I mean. I mean, it looks like a real gun because there's a real gun in the movie. I mean, he's not going to come with a laser pistol, so that one kind of threw me right there, but I'll throw that out. He said when it comes to retro again, if you get any, it's probably going to be a more new style retro, one that looks more like trying to look retro, and it's going to be probably on the list right there. Some names moving around on that list. It's Indiana Jones, Motor-Rom, Short Round, Marion, Henry Jones, and a Temple of Doom Indiana Jones. I know, I'm doubling myself. I just want to make sure y'all understand that. No 12-inch. He said that's got shot down really quickly. Let me see what else. That's about all he said for Indiana Jones. He said he has heard ramblings of Return of the Jedi retro line for the 40th anniversary next year for Return of the Jedi. We all figured they would wait till next year to do those. And he said right now, again, plans are just starting up for that. That there's no definite list yet, but this is what it looks like it's going to break down to so far. Luke Jedi, no brainer right there. A Wicket or some other Ewok. I say Wicket would probably be the best too, but Wicket or one of the other Ewoks, Gamorrean Guard, a Biker Scout, Lando Skiff Guard, Emperor, and the new figure of the line, which will be exclusive to a board game, or there's no board game for Jedi, so I'm not sure what they're going to do, but the exclusive figure, like they did with Tarkin and like they did with the Hoth Luke, is going to be Wedge, which I hope so. We all want Wedge, and he plays a key part in Return of the Jedi. If you're not going to give us a Wedge for Hoth, this seems like the perfect time to give us a Wedge in Tilly. So again, for the retro line, what looks like it's going to be, again, we're still early out. Luke Jedi, Wicket, Gamorrean Guard, Biker Scout, Lando Guard, Emperor, and Wedge. Now, I did say, well, this sounds kind of crazy. Why wouldn't they do a Han and a Leia? And they was like, well, they felt there was no iconic figure of those two. That when you think Han, Jedi, you had trench coat, indoor Han. They could do that, but I might disagree with them on that. Leia, I think I would have done a Bosch, but they always want to, Hasbro wants to save costs. Probably because with a helmet, so they're not going to do it. I don't know. Anyway, these are rumors. Again, I can't believe you forgot the best thing out of all this. Did you hear? Kathleen Kennedy got banned from going to Hasbro. That's right. She has no say in what they're doing with Indiana Jones or Star Wars or anything. Hasbro has banned her from entering the Hasbro building. Ha! How about that? Well, it looks like you forgot to talk about that. But that's you. You're just biased. You only want to talk about the good stuff. Good day. Whew, just call me Doom Junk. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. Does it sound so far-fetched? It's like, no, Hasbro's going to do a huge push. We're going to get all this stuff, and who knows what we're going to get. But the closer we get to Indiana Jones, if we ever get it, I mean, it's been pushed back so much. The closer we get to Indiana Jones, we'll hear a lot more, and I'll keep you posted as I hear stuff. And if you guys hear anything, let me know also. Well, as always, please thumb up if you like my content. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk again soon.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.